We're going to cover the branding guidelines in today's session. We will spend a great deal of time talking about how to use a brand in different scenarios, including answering the question of how do you use the brand in name tags. Once we've done this session today, I will also introduce the idea of a public relations plan. As Vice President of Public Relations, it's very helpful to have a public relations plan. And what I'd like to do there is go into detail as to what is a public relations plan consisting of and how it can help us run our clubs better. The last part is to then help you execute that plan. So if I can give detail to these three things, the brand guidelines today, we will talk about the brand personality of Toastmasters and how to generally recognize the brand personality of any brand. We'll talk about the tone and the voice in your communication, because your written language has a certain tone and voice to it. Toastmasters subscribes to a very distinct tone and voice in written communication, and we'll talk more about that. We will talk about the color palette and which colors are the official colors to use, including the fonts that go with those colors. We will then talk a deal about the logo and its uses, when is it appropriate, and how to use the logo. In the second session today, we will then talk about the PR plan, which consists at its basic of three things: identifying who the target audience of your club is, figuring out where they congregate, which platform, and then devising a plan on how to reach them. Now, when we have a PR plan, it becomes easier to execute as a Vice President of Public Relations. Because now, with that PR plan, we are able to choose which platform is best for reaching potential members. There's a lot of platforms out there, from WhatsApp to Meetup, from Facebook to Instagram. You can have newsletters, a website, flyers, community boards. The list is endless. A good PR plan will focus you as to which ones get you the best results for your club. Because splitting your efforts across 13 platforms becomes tiring as a Vice President of Public Relations. But if you choose the three top ones, you can focus your attention and get the most results using the Pareto principle of 80-20. So we're going to choose the 20% of platforms that get you 80% of the results, so that if you take care of those platforms, the results should still trickle in. The follow-up sessions of this Brand Right program will then be focused on the execution of the plan. We cannot possibly cover the details of each one of these, so we will split them and pair them. So once a month, we'll tackle two of them.
The slide is missing. No.
Which slide?
I can't see nothing on the screen.
Still?
All the same.
Oh, I see. I'm no longer the presenter. Andrew, can you make me the presenter again, please? All right, we're just waiting on Andrew to make me the presenter. While we do that, I will continue talking and we'll come back to the slide. We were talking about the Brand Right plan and how we aim to roll it out in three parts: understanding the brand guidelines, setting a PR plan for our clubs, and then the execution plan, which comes in the follow-up sessions that we have. There are in excess of 13 platforms that we can publicize our clubs on. What we aim to do in these sessions is tackle two at a time, those platforms, and go into details and as to how you best design for those platforms. For example, if your club is running a newsletter, we will spend some time discussing what a good newsletter looks like, how to get it brand compliant, and how to get the readership up so that your efforts are directly contributing to that. Okay. Andrew's almost back. Are there any questions at this point as to the rollout of the program? Are there any questions thus far about the rollout of the program? What are the 13 platforms? Is the question. I've already counted some of them. So we're talking about WhatsApp, Meetup, Facebook, Instagram, newsletters, flyers, websites, community boards, and I seem to have forgotten the 5 that are left. Snapchat, I think it's called. There is Twitter, YouTube. I've lost 2, but there were 13 by my count that are effective, and we'll get into the detail of them as we carry on with the program. Yay, I'm back. Mike, has that answered your question? Can everybody see my screen again?
Yes, I can see it. Timber here.
Thank you very much. Give it a second, Sade, it will come back. Right. So those are the 13 platforms that we will learn to master throughout the program as to how do we execute our PR plan across those platforms. The other 2 were radio and TV. There we go, that's 13. Okay. That brings us to the end of the introduction of the section, and we are ready now to start going into the brand guidelines section. I will take final calls before we go into the brand guidelines section. Final questions. When it comes to our club website, how much leeway do we have with chopping and changing things, provided we follow the brand's guideline? Tracy, that's a good question. Your club's website is your club's website, which means you own the website. You can do whatever you want with it as long as when you represent the Toastmasters brand, the things that you do fall into the brand guidelines. We are going to cover those brand guidelines in a second. I'd like you to think of them as a framework. So they're not there to really inhibit you, but to get us to have a consistent look and feel across the 194 clubs that we have in our district right now, and all the clubs that exist across the world. So if we all follow the consistent guidelines or become consistent with the guidelines, then we will become recognizable as Toastmasters clubs, while the guidelines are flexible enough that we can still express the individual uniqueness of each club. So clubs do not have to be identical, but they have to become within the same framework, if I can put it that way. Does that answer your question, Tracy? All right. I saw something about boring. Yes, I want to answer this question. So the question is, as VPPR last year, I was always told to be fun. Hey, stop moving. Where is that comment? I was told to be fun and funky, while this comment keeps driving up and down. Can you post that comment again, please?
Let me read it for you, Tandwafika. It says, as VPPR last year, I was always told to be fun and funky. When I did use TM branding guidelines, I was told it was boring.
That's fair. That's a fair comment. So the TM branding guidelines are there to become a framework. But as I say, we're not limited to using, also, we're not limited in how we represent our club within the TM guidelines. If, as we go through the guidelines, you'll understand that they structure us in terms of tone and voice and the use of fonts. But the placement of the items we put on the stage, the type of imagery we use, the text that we put on there is all up to us. And we can definitely make this fun and funky without breaking the Toastmasters brand. But with all things in life, we need some sort of constraints. If we open it up too widely, then we start not feeling like the same brand. So yes, there are constraints, but in my view, there are ways to work with those constraints as opposed to breaking them in order to be unique. And this is what I really hope to cover with you as we go through the different platforms. As we go through the different platforms, we'll be designing together different posters that are brand compliant, but fresh in my eyes. So hopefully as we do that, you will realize that there's a lot of ways in which we can exhibit our uniqueness of our club without necessarily breaking the brand guidelines. So that's my hope for this brand right program. So let's get to the first thing that we need to cover. You have all received a link to the Toastmasters brand book or brand manual. Has anyone opened it? I'll give you 2 points if you have. Who has opened it? Yay! All right. So this brand manual is going to become our Bible as we start working as brand custodians of Toastmasters. And it's important that we understand what is covered in there. I will spend some time going over it briefly, highlighting the most important things and demonstrating how they can be used. And then by the time we finish this part of the section, you should have the confidence to work on a design, knowing what is breaking the brand and what is within the brand. Is that worth learning? All right, I will send you the link right there. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Thank you very much, Frank. All right, so let's start off with the personality, the voice and tone of our brand. So all brands on earth have a certain personality about them, a certain tone and a voice in their communication. For example, the mining company that is my client has a very formal voice in its communication. And because of its formal voice in its communication, we write documents that are very formal in the way they're written. If you think of a legal firm has also got a very stern, formal voice to it. So the material that's written is always formal in nature. The Toastmasters brand, though, has a personality that is that of leadership. Get to it. Has a personality that of a leader, dedication, helpfulness, and empowering. So those are just 4 words, right? They're just 4 words. What do they actually mean? It means that everything that we produce is driven by this personality that we portray in our posters, the personality that we portray in written communication, in our newsletters. They've got to be that of a leader. Now, when you talk about funky, if you're communicating to a certain group and you want to be a little bit more funky about it, you certainly can be funky by being helpful, but it doesn't mean you have to be goofy in your communication. Because leadership, yes, tends to be a little bit more formal, but that's the brand of Toastmasters. It's a more formalish environment, and we have to portray ourselves as leaders whenever we communicate. Also keep in mind the helpful nature of our brand. Being a helpful brand means that you go out to meet people. When someone asks a question, you respond quickly. When you see that there's misunderstanding, you clarify. You become helpful and offer the first hand. And that's the kind of personality the brand has to communicate. This is done by the voice and tone that we use. And this brand manual has 13 checklists as to how the voice and brand should be like. See, 13 keeps coming back. So the voice has to be warm and clear, friendly and member focused. So it's about the person that we're talking to. Professional in its nature, short and succinct, and respectful to all cultures. So already from get-go, we get understanding that whatever we design has to fall into this personality and voice and tone. So if we think of this brand as a human being, we've described this human being as a leader. We've described him as a dedicated person, helpful and empowering to others. When they speak to you, they're warm in the way they speak to you. They're clear in their speech and friendly. They're always focused on you as a person and a member, and are professional in their conduct towards you. They're not verbose, which means they stick to short sentences that communicates directly what needs to be communicated quickly, and they're respectful to you, irrespective of where you come from. When you think of a brand in this terms as a human being, and you are the mouthpiece of this human being, it starts being clear as to how the brand should be communicated. Are there any questions regarding the voice tone so far? So that's the voice, tone, and personality of the brand. But a lot of people see the brand visually first before they even see written communication. So let's talk about how this translates into the visual elements. What are visual elements? Visual elements is anything that we can see about the brand. They start off from the colors that we use, the fonts that we use, the photography that we use, the elements that we place on page, like arrows, triangles, squares, circles. All those things fall into the visual elements of a brand. Toastmasters has set a guideline for us for these visual elements, but the use of them together is where we express our club's uniqueness. Before we can do that, we need to first understand what are these visual elements that are sort of the constraints and the boundary walls of how far we can go, so that we know how much space we have to run around in between the boundary walls. So the first visual elements I'd like to talk about are the colors. So there are 7 recognized colors within the Toastmaster brand, and you can see them on your screen now. The top one are called the primary colors. The bottom ones are the secondary colors. This means that in our communication, in our brand, the top ones must be the most present color in your designs. The bottom ones become the highlight color, the headings, the little elements that we add to make the design better. The exception is you can't get away with black or white, especially if you're designing for an output that's black or white. So you can use these as the bulk of the color, but generally you always try to use these top ones as the primary colors. Now, when working with these colors, it's important to recognize these codes that are here. A little bit of design know-how. What these codes do is they give us the exact color that you see on the monitor. There's 3 types that are listed there. The first one is called the CMYK. This is popular amongst printing. So when I'm printing things, the printer sort of prints in CMYK, which stands for cyan, which is yellow, magenta, which is red. Oh, sorry, what cyan? Forgot that. Cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Can't remember cyan. I think it's blue or green. Okay. So what the printer does is it mixes the inks of the printer in this ratio to get this color. Right? So whenever you're working in a design software that is built for printing, you will see it will ask you for a color in these things. Any design made in digital will either ask you for the RGB or the hex code for it. RGB is red, green, and blue. This is a mixture of colors that you get from any design software. For example, if I go to my PowerPoint right now, and I want to know what color this is, if I go to the color palette, and I go to more colors, I will see the red, green, blue. That's the RGB we talk about. So whenever I'm working with these colors, I will have to copy the RGB that I see from here. And that RGB will give me the exact color on here. You can see mine is off by 2 shades. Let's fix that done. Now this is the exact color that we use so that everybody using this blue gets exactly the same blue. Are we happy with that? The last one, the hex, is used for web design. So when you're coding on a website, it will ask you for the hex color. And what this is a code representing this exact shade that gives you that shade whenever you're designing. So this is how you use these codes. They are built to have us all use exactly the same color. The last one, sorry, is that Pantone. That Pantone is more for paints. So if I wanted to paint a wall with that Pantone color, I'd go to the hardware store and ask for that exact color, and they will give me this color, Pantone 188. Cyan is blue. Thank you, Lynette. So are we all clear with the color? Okay. There's an additional thing I'd like to mention about the color. In recent years, or ever since I started, we've always been guided to use blue as a primary color for a club, and then this burgundy as a primary color for division district designs. So by separating this color, we're able to identify whether whatever produced it is a club or it's an official district function or design that comes up. I would like us to keep to this color coding, which means all our clubs will have a large amount of Pantone blue, or that Pantone color there, and all our district affairs will have a large amount of that one there. Okay. Now we're done, we will move on. Any questions before I move on to the logo? Blue major color for clubs, yes. Is there a reference to text color? So the question is there a preference to the text color to be used? The text color also forms within the Toastmasters colors. For example, if I am designing on a blue background, I may use any one of the colors on it, but I must be careful because some colors pop against each other. If I try to use a Toastmaster red on this blue background, it starts hurting my eyes. So as a designer, I probably will not use the bright red on it. I'll use the more burgundy, and hopefully it fits in better. I think I have it here. There it is. So you'll notice that when I use those two colors together, they start interacting in a way that is not always comfortable. So as you design your items, just pay heed to that colors can pop against each other. So if I'm using a dark blue, I'd prefer to use white or the yellow as the text color. And that sticks to the color scheme, which means I'm using only official colors as part of my design. Are you answered, Shannon? Alan? Question is, how strict is that? For example, you're designing a flyer for a rose, burgundy or red background will be the obvious choice, but it's a club. Is it okay? In my personal view, because I've not found anywhere where it strictly says I cannot do that, I do use both colors in my designs, but the preference is to stick to the club color as the main color and the burgundy as a district color. But as I say, you can also change the amounts that you use. It doesn't have to be predominantly red. You can use red for the sections you need to. No one is going to come and police you at your club and say, hey, why are you using district colors? But for consistency, it is preferable, but it's not, this is one of those things that is not overly strict. Is the question answered, Iman? Because you mentioned levels for colors. Can you type which levels go with which colors? Okay, I'm not sure I understand the question. You mean in terms of matching, that the red goes with blue and the yellow goes, oh, sorry, the yellow goes with blue. Okay, I can provide that after there's something called a color wheel that you can work with that allows you to pair colors. So I will send that as a resource after this session. Okay, note. Are we ready to talk about the logo? So here's a pop quiz. Pop quiz. How many logos do you think we have as Toastmasters? Tracy says 6. Swissy says 1, man. We only have 1 logo. Any other takers? Sammy only knows 1. Rajen, 1. Coach, 1. Okay. So we have only 1 recognized logo, but in multiple colors, depending on the design that you want to use. So yes, let's call them variations. So the variations of the logo are there to allow us to fit the logo to any design that we want to use. Okay, there we go. So if you look at the design I have up here, this is 1 color of the logo. It's not white, it's actually blue. So it's blue in color. And I love using this one when I have a blue background that I want the logo to sit on. So in total, we do have various logos. And let's go through the rules about how we use those logos as part of our design. So there's 2 parts to the logo. It's the colored bit that you see here, that is the logo. And then there's the word mark and lockups that you see on the right here. You may use either one, sometimes in combination. Both are acceptable. So instead of the full logo, if I wanted to, I could just use the words Toastmasters International. Please do not type them. Use the lockup that's already made for you in different styles. And you can place that as part of the design. So when it comes to the logo, there's 3 versions of it. There's 4 versions, sorry. There's a full color, black and white, grayscale, and knockout. There's also different colors of the full color one, which just highlights one of the different elements. It's important to use the correct one when you are designing. For example, this lockout one is great for a black background where you want the white to pop. Right. The difference between this reverse knockout and this black and white is that the colors are inversed. They are both black and white in color, but the one has white where black should be, and the one has black where the other one has white. Both of them are valid. I use them interchangeably, especially the colored ones. Here are the full color versions with their reverse knockouts. So you'll see a color one and the reverse knockout that you may use. Whenever you're using the logo, it's important to leave a clear space around the logo. So the recommended amount of clear space is equals to the size of that portion, the width of the what's this thing called again? The lockup. So the width of the lockup is how much space you should leave on either side. The easiest way to do this is to take whatever design software you're using and draw a square that is the same size as the logo that you want. So now I have a square the same size as the logo that I want. With that square, I'll then use it as a sizing guide. So I know this logo needs to be down here. And on the side, it needs to be this far away. So that's the easiest way I know for making sure you get a consistent sizing for the clear space you need to have around the logo. Now it's perfectly sized, equidistant from the top and the left-hand side. That's the first rule that we have regarding the logo, that it must have equal amount of space between the top and the bottom. And the easiest way is to draw a square and just place a square top and bottom. That will give you the size. Is that useful? All right, Mike. Mike says he hasn't seen the knockout gallery. Mike, I've put together some resources which I will put in a shared drive. If you go to that shared drive, you'll be able to find all the different logos in all their variations for you to use as part of your design. Renita, same answer goes to you. Okay. That's the first rule of using the logo. Please leave equal sides to it. The next part is the word marks. The word marks can be placed on a colored background, like we see here, but please do not tinker with their color. This goes the same for the logo. Do not grayscale it or put a tint to it or do anything that changes its color. Rather use a logo that's already designed for that color. All right. So this word mark can be used at the bottom of pages as almost like a signature, if you can call it that. It's got the Toastmasters International without the rest of the logo. And where it comes from, if you look carefully at our logo, it's this middle portion here. That is the word mark. So that's where it comes from. They've just separated for us so we can use it individually and we can use it on top of any of the officially colored backgrounds that we want. There are alternate versions for black and white, as well as a reverse knockout, and you may use this as you feel fit. Same as a logo, please leave a square equidistant when you're placing these materials on a page. A question I'm often asked is, must the logo always be on the top right-hand side? The logo can appear top right, top left, and bottom right. I've never seen it appear on the bottom left-hand side. The word mark can also appear on any of the sides, including center, but I've always seen the word mark being used at the bottom right or middle as an appropriate place for it. Here's the last variation of the logo. This one includes the tagline where leaders are made or the website address. Again, do not type it. Please go and get the logo that's already created like this because the proportions are perfect. If you type it, you might get the proportions wrong, and then we start having a wrong logo. This is the most strictest things about our design, the use of the logo. Everything else is strict, but not as strict as the use of this logo. Some examples of what we can't do. Summarized, don't change the logo. Simple as that. If you bumped into a purple Woolworths logo, it would seem funny to you. Similarly, if you bump into a logo that's not part of the set, it miscommunicates the brand. So please do not change the logo in its dimensions, in its color, in its tint. Rather use one of the ones provided for you. That's the best way to work with it. 2, please do not put the logo on a background that is not an official Toastmasters color or busy graphics. Now, they call them non-branded. I call them busy. When it's busy like this, then the logo is affected, and it's easy for people to think that the graphic is part of the logo. Do not put glows, shadows, or any other effect on the logo. Please leave it unchanged. That's the best way. Do not create your own logos. For example, in this diagram here, we have a sphere with the words Toastmasters International written on them. Now you can argue I wasn't creating a logo, I just want to put the words there. But the effect is that people think that this is then a logo of Toastmasters. So that's as strict as it gets. Everything from here becomes a bit more fun. Did you make it past the first section? We're all still alive. All right, I see one more comment. Whenever we work with graphics, it's very easy to distort them. Distorting a graphic is when you change its aspect ratio. So for instance, if I were to stretch this like this, that is no longer the Toastmasters logo. Right. So please make sure wherever you display it, do not stretch the logo. Leave it in its aspect ratio, which is square 1:1. Don't start making it longer to fit designs that you have, or make it taller to fit designs that you have. Keep it 1:1 without distorting it in any way. I've also seen effects where people make it 3-dimensional. Please do not make it 3-dimensional. Leave it as is. This is the most strictest thing about our brand. Let's please respect it. Everything else is easier. All right. Everyone's still alive. What's next? Let's talk a little bit about design elements. This one. So what are design elements? When you look at design elements is how you control the order of information that's being read. There's multiple ways you can use them. It's header information or things that you write in capitals that become the headers. It's any linked information. We control this in 3 ways. The first way we control it is by putting elements like this to help us pull attention to what we want. Secondly, we control it by how big the information is, the font, and the color. Whenever we're doing this, remember what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a hierarchy of information within a design. So a person looking at a design, let's take this one for example, should be able to see what's the most important information. Okay, it's lead con from Division Z. What else is important? 28th Standard Affiliation of Zimbabwe. Can you see how the size and the elements used pull attention to what information is important? Whenever we design, try and be as succinct as possible with the elements that you have on a page. If I look at this design, it's got one too many elements for me because we have that element, that one, and that one, which is one too many elements. These kind of designs can be simplified very easily by reducing the number of elements so that it's one, and then having your flow of information in different colors to point what is the most important information that you want to communicate. This is the use of the elements that we have. The first element that's important is for us to use the header information as efficiently as possible. Now remember, the background and the placement is all up to you. You can place it where you want in the design that best expresses your club, as long as we please observe that the font must be within the official fonts, the colors are still in the official colors, and the item is not too busy that it loses impact on the reader, or the reader has to find the information because it is hidden in a lot of nooks and crannies. Now, this is a very personal choice whenever you're designing, because if you ask 6 designers to design something with the same information, they will come up with 6 different designs. This goes to what your club personality is about, and you can express yourself in any of those ways. You can have with graphic or without. You can change the style of this graphic. You can change the background. Even though I've made this background a little more subtle, you can still see that I have a patented or a photo background there, and it still works because it's powering the other elements. If you find this boring, you can start doing more things with it. For example, I saw a poster from Rosebank that had a cross to it. I think I still have it. No. I saw a poster from Rosebank that had a cross to it, and it was quite funky how they did it, but stuck to brand as close as possible without losing their funk or the coolness of the club. So it is possible to design with the elements and still get various different kinds of designs that fit into the brand. All these are legal designs, and it just depends on the personality of the club that you have. Okay. All right, so we've covered the visual elements of the brand, and that's the last part, I think. Let's just quickly scan it. Does anyone have the Toastmaster fonts? If you don't have them, I've shared them also on the group, so you can download the Lubin fonts, the Merit Pro, Arial everyone should already have, and the Gotham font. I will make those available on there. Installation is easy, just double click and save, and it will save the font to your program. Restart whatever program you're using, and then you are able to use that font. The last piece I'd like to cover when it comes to visual elements is the use of photography. Now, this becomes a very tricky thing in Toastmasters because our photos need to have a very distinct style to them if we're using photos in our design. So let's start off with what you can't do with photos. Please do not use images of animals, landscape, children, food, medicine, cartoons, architecture, or non-branded photos as part of a design. And there's a very real reason for this. The word Toastmaster already sounds like food. Now, if you add a toaster to it, the visual imagery you get is that we are a food or a eating or a manufacturing company for food. And that starts confusing the brand that we're using. So please avoid using things like toasters or any other food items with toasters. And I see this is a big trend, especially amongst my division, to show what the food of the day will be as part of your poster. So I've seen a lot of chocolate delights kind of posters. I've seen a lot of wine kind of posters. Please do not pair the brand with food in as much as possible. Now, in the photography that you share in your Facebook pages, you can, of course, post pictures of people enjoying themselves in the environment. And sometimes those pictures include food. That is okay, right? There's no problems with that. What you shouldn't do, though, is add the Toastmasters logo on those pictures. Are we clear on that one? I promise the next sections will not be as strict as this one. We will stick to the design portion of it, but we have to get the brand in so that when we are designing, we can stick to the brand. Right. The photography that is favored is that of faces. Not only faces, but faces enjoying the experience of being a Toastmasters. The brand portal already comes with a lot of stock photography that you can use, but we are going to start our own stock photography drive. As part of this brand right, I'd like us to share our club's photos with each other so that we have enough material to use as part of our designs. To encourage you to do this, we're going to run a contest where we'll be awarding the club that sends in the best posters and photos on a monthly basis in this session. And this club will get a voucher compliment of Mr. Andrew Tsuru, who will tell us towards the end how much his voucher is worth. But as we do this, we'll then have an increased number of photos that we can use. To start us off, I've already uploaded photos from my clubs, which is the Social Network Toastmasters and the Rosebank Toastmasters. And then you may use those photos and start adding yours to there so that we have a good library of photos we can use for our design. The criteria will be on faces and places of people enjoying their Toastmasters experiences, smiling, presenting in a Toastmasters branded environment. So we want to see banners, we want to see paraphernalia like that one there, where we can see the Toastmasters logo to show it's a Toastmasters environment. When it comes to use of photos, you can go really creative about how you use those photos. Remember, the photos don't have the same rules of the logo applied to them, which means you can color correct photos. You can tint them to one of the Toastmasters colors, right? That's possible. An example of this is this background element that we have here. If you look at this element, you'll see that it's been color tinted to allow the text to be able to be visible on top of it. And you can decide how much color tint this or what color you're using. So the same elements can be tinted various colors to get the different effects that you want from it. In follow-up sessions, we'll cover exactly how you get these kind of effects going as we together learn how to work with the brand. So I'll cover techniques on how to get this going and other tips and tricks of design as we go on. Okay. There's also a lot of sample material which you will find is in the resources. I will share that with you and you can go through it as you want. So that more or less covers the brand part of this. Remember the following: it's about the personality, the voice, and the tone in which you communicate. We want to communicate that we are leaders. We are dedicated, helpful, and empowering anyone that comes across us. Remember, whenever you're communicating, to be warm and friendly and helpful in your communication as per the checklist. When it comes to the visual elements, please do not alter the logos in any way. Rather, use the set that's been provided for you so you can design within that. Remember to use official fonts and use them in elements so that you can communicate information like headers, the main information, and sub-information. If you do this, that is the first part of us communicating a consistent brand across all our platforms. One happens in the photo have our corporate logo in it. For example, it could have been a sign on the door and a window. So, Helen, there's no rules against that. What becomes a rule is deliberate branding, like for instance, a pull-up banner that is placed next to another pull-up Toastmasters banner. That is co-branding. But if the building has branding on it, there's nothing we can do about that. The building has branding, and you may still use that as part of your design. Okay. Robert, sometimes sending fonts. So Robert asked if we can send the font via email. Sometimes sending fonts is blocked by networks of companies. It's rather easier for me to put it in a shared drive that you can, that I send you the link to. So what I will send you is a link to the fonts, and then you can access them from the shared drive. They're small size, so it won't cost you that much data to download them. Okay, so let's talk about your PR plan for the next few minutes before we sign up. No, please, you don't have to try and cover it up or Photoshop it, Shaylin. If the building has branding, the building has branding. Nothing we can do about that. So let's talk about the PR plan. For the next couple of sessions, the PR plan that we have is going to become very important. It's going to be the guiding thing that we use in order to exercise these brand guidelines. So the PR plan, at its simplest, is about two things: who the target audience is, where do they meet, and how do you reach them? There is a questionnaire that Andrew sent out of your PR plan, which basically asks you these three questions. I'd like to spend time now talking about your target audience and who your club has as a member. This is a time where we can have a conversation together. So we will have I will allow mics to be on one at a time so we can air our views so we understand who the target member is. So question I have to everybody: who do you think is a target member of your club? Mics allowed. Who would like to go first?
I would.
Hi.
Hi. I think it's people, aspiring motivational speakers, public speaking people.
Can I ask who is currently members of your club? What's common amongst them? Sorry, I missed your name. The lady I just asked that just spoke just now. I'd like to use the club as an example. So what's common about the members of your club? Refilwe. Thank you, Refilwe.
Basically, okay, my club is new. It just launched, so I don't know the people. We only met on Saturday, just for a couple of minutes, and yeah. But I guess what's common amongst them, I don't know, which characteristic do you want? Personality or the skills that they have?
Okay. So there's a common thread that says that anyone is a member or a potential member of a club, right? And for many years, I believe the same, that anyone is a member of a club. The only challenge with that is that if you go with the thought that anyone can be a member of your club, guess what your marketing efforts do? They start targeting everyone in the world. Now, if you're targeting everyone in the world, you are going to work yourself to a standstill. Right. So it's important to really think about who the current member and the potential member that you're trying to invite your club is. For example, there are corporate clubs which are closed off to the general public. That makes it easier to know who your potential member is. Your potential member is someone who works in the building, right? So your efforts are already geared towards targeting the people that work in your building, right? When you understand that, you start thinking about the platforms which you will find these people. So maybe Facebook is not the best because these people are already here in the building. If I advertise on Facebook, I might be advertising to the whole world and getting a lot of guests in, but they can't become members of my club, and I defeat the purpose of me trying to get people into the club, right? So it's very important that we think about where our club meeting is being held, because that determines the kind of person that you're attracting. We think about who the current members are, because most times they are represented. They are representative of the kind of member you will attract, right? Sometimes the age group becomes important, sometimes not. Other clubs tend to be youthful, others more elderly. Others are professional clubs, others are more casual clubs. Each of these clubs attracts a very different kind of person. Right? So looking at your club, Refile, and what I've just said, is it possible to hone down or state more succinctly who the potential member of your club would be?
Okay. After analyzing, the people who are part of my club are the older generation. It's not really youth. You can say everybody who's above 35, so it's not really youthly. And these people own businesses. Yeah, so they're basically entrepreneurs.
Excellent.
So I don't know, should it fall informal, whatever?
And where do you meet?
We haven't decided yet. Like I said, we only launched on Saturday. So we still have to have a meeting to discuss where will our offices be or where we'll be meeting.
Okay. So that's the general, yes?
If I can come in there on behalf of Refilwe. So Refilwe is one of the VPP who was elected on Saturday at the Mafikeng Toastmasters Club, the only club in Mafikeng so far. So she's finding her feet and getting to know the rest of the Toastmasters culture.
All right. Don't worry, Andrew, we're all finding our feet. Coach says, energetic young old ladies. Wow, young old ladies, I like that. Energetic young old ladies, excellence driven and classy, right? I like that you already have the target audience in your mind, because remember, this is going to help us craft our PR plan, right? Now, for everybody on the call, just take 2 seconds and write down just 4 characteristics of the member that you have. All of them want to do one thing, which is improve their communication skills. But can you describe them in a bit more detail? Are they old or young? Are they professional? Are they young professionals? Are they in the middle of their careers? Do they come to your club because of its proximity, it's close to home, or is it close to their work? Right? Where are they? Who are they? Think of them carefully, because we're going to use that image that you have of them for the next part. Once you've done that, please drop a description of who your ideal member is into the chat. Please remember that just because you've got an ideal doesn't mean that you will not accept anybody else or attract anybody else. It just helps us to focus where our efforts are going to be. But sometimes we catch outliers or people that are around that. We didn't aim for them, but they, sort of saw our messages and came. That's okay, right? I like that. Time of day. That's also very important for defining your member. What time does the club meet? Is it a club that a mom can do during the day and then be able to pick up the kids from school afterwards? Is the kind of club that's in the evening and is a dinner club, which is suited for couples, right? So all that is important to understand exactly who our target audience is. Does everybody have a target audience in mind? I like that. Which club are you from, Encromella? Encromella. So Encromella says, our club celebrates 45 years. We are really diverse with literally all ages. That may be true, but I can still bet you that there is something that is common amongst all the members. It could be that they all live in that area where the club is, or they work in the surrounding area. There's always something common amongst them. We need to find this in order to know where to start advertising. Aha, they are all Randburg residents. Excellent. So already that gives you a geographic location as to where we're going to focus our efforts to find new members in the Randburg and surrounding areas. Makes it easier. My home club, the Social Media Toastmasters, for example, we cannot really use a geographic location as part of our definition because, for starters, the club moves every meeting, so we don't know where to market in terms of geographic location. Two, people come from very far to go to a club meeting because it only happens once a month, the larger one. So we've seen people drive from Pretoria, we've seen people drive from Soweto. It doesn't matter where it is, they seem to drive and go to wherever the club is meeting that week. So again, it depends on the culture of the club, is going to determine the member that you attract, and that's going to help us determine the platform we're going to use. All right. So now let's talk about where these people that you have in mind congregate. Okay. So if your club has a lot of millennials, think about where do millennials congregate. So those will be platforms like Instagram, where it's built for the millennials. Less and less millennials are using Facebook these days. If it's baby boomers, Facebook is the way to go. In fact, everyone above, not everyone, 28 to around about 65, a bulk of them, you will find them on Facebook because that's the platform that is now the majority of the social media being used. All right. Millennials are also big on Twitter, which irritates a lot of the baby boomers because information goes so quickly there that even as vice president of public relations, you have to post multiple times a day to reach people if you're using Twitter. Same as Instagram, right? So the ideal member that you have in your head congregates somewhere. For example, the clubs that are in Randburg, is there a mall, a place where they all shop, a ShopRite, a Checkers where all these people go and buy the groceries? That's a unique way to advertise a club. If you know they congregate there, that perhaps it should be the place where you can find them. For the entrepreneurs that we have in the room, where do entrepreneurs gather themselves? Is it other networks? Is it related courses? Is it certain radio stations they listen to? Certain programs that they watch? Certain newsletters that they read that we could ask to be a contributor for an episode of that newsletter and share tips? Most people who run blogs or newsletter would welcome the extra content and we get a chance to advertise to them at the same time. So when we understand who the target audience is and understand where they congregate, it becomes easier to craft a plan on how you're going to reach them. That's where we're going with this. Okay. So where would you reach some of your members? Where do you think your members would congregate? Your potential members would congregate? Where would you bump into them? Hi, Rajan. Welcome from India. So please drop a comment on the chat where you think your potential member would congregate. Please don't go for the obvious one, which is Facebook. Let's find other places where we think they would congregate. Oh, it got difficult now. Everyone's quiet. Was my question perhaps not clear? Am I even online still? Ah, there it is.
You are online,
Aha,
Tando.
now I can see it. It's my chat is just gone crazy. It's gone to the top now. I can't see the stream. I give up. Do you mind reading some of the comments for me, please? My chat is just gone crazy.
Okay, I'll read some of the comments. So let's start from possibly on the top. So Refilwe says their potential clients are at the gym. Mike says community groups on Facebook. Spusiso from Standard Bank says in the office. Robert Salijan Malawi says clubs, gym, and church.
Okay, let's pause there.
Okay.
So let's take clubs, gyms, church, and office as an example. Right? How would you reach these people? Because you've mentioned physical places. Would you reach them if that's where your members congregate? So let's take a church, for example. I can imagine at a church, especially if you're a member of that church, making an announcement that, to give a testimony that is better articulated, come to our Toastmasters meeting, or in some similar way like that. I also imagine asking the pastor if you can put some posters up towards the entrance. Members of the church can, be invited to a meeting so that they can see for themselves how this can improve their communication, right? Because we know where they are now, we know exactly where to target our efforts. It becomes easy. For Spusisos at the corporate, I can imagine how the intranet at work would be very usable, or even the address list that IT already provides. A newsletter or even an invite that goes out to the company, especially if you invite some of the HR directors or senior managers, can bring in a lot of the people from the company to go see what the club is about. All right. Simply by understanding where our members congregate allows us to make a plan for them. Right. Gym, similar thing. Right. I can even see the analogy of making your public speaking skills like a muscle that you need to exercise in the same way you exercise your other muscles for it to be strong. I can see those kind of posters. I can see that kind of community happening in the gym with permission from the gym, of course. Right. Even better, you could offer a discount to the gym members if it's a franchise gym. You can even offer a discount to the gym members in partnership with the gym to say, when you join the gym, you also get, I don't know, a month's free Toastmasters, something like that. So you can exercise your other muscles. These becomes ideas in which you can use to gain more members. We've used similar ones when it came to speaking on radio. So what our Vice President of Public Relations last year did is they went to Sci Bono. Sci Bono is a science exhibition center. It's a very big science exhibition center targeting sort of the youth and kids to understand science better. So they went there and said, look, we see that membership to Sci Bono is low and people don't know that it exists. We'd like to hold a Toastmasters meeting here, themed with the science, and then invite people to come here on condition that we can then use your venue for free, right? They then went to the radio stations and spoke about how science is important to the youth, but more than that, the articulation important for them to speak the science. It's also important to the teachers who are teaching the youth to be able to teach the science, right? So we have a meeting that shows something that helps everybody communicate better. So with that one move, they were able to get a venue and appear in 9 different radio slots, some of them national. And the net result is that they had 250 people at a meeting in less than a month of marketing, right? So when you know where your members congregate and what radio stations they listen to and what areas you go to, you come up with very unique plans as how to reach them. Is that helpful? Yes, I'm not kidding. 250. 250 in attendance. I've got to say though, the club has a very, very poor conversion rate. Of the 250, the club managed to get, I think it was 18 members who took their own sweet time. Not 18, it was 9, 11 members. They managed to get 11 members, but still, sorry, my mother's trying to talk to me. But still, if the club improved their conversion strategy, they would do a lot better. But in terms of attendance, they've mastered that part of it. Okay. Can you hit me with a couple more comments, please?
Yes, Tando. So we've got, you asked if that was helpful, and Refilwe says yes, a lot. Swosiso, very helpful. Lucia, yes. Mike, that was extremely helpful. Tracy says great presentation, thank you. And Coach Dorothy says great. I was typing my comment to say, well, I suppose if we can get 250 people at a meeting as PR people, we've done our part. Maybe the VPMs need to beef up their manpower to sign up the people.
Okay.
Oh, and the district director says thank you.
Thank you very much. We have 1 minute left. I'll let time run away from me, but we've covered the PR plan. So if we were to go back to our presentation, what I'd like you to do as next actions is document your PR plan. So write down those target audiences that you had, think about where they congregate and write a short list, let's say 5, of where you think they will congregate, and write out a short plan on how you think you can reach them where they congregate. I'd like to then move this conversation into our WhatsApp group starting tomorrow, where we will talk about ways in which to reach those members. So for example, you can type ideas for reaching people at a church. And then we all contribute to the brainstorming as to how we reach someone at a church. Next week, we have another session where we will talk about the tools now. Once you know how we're going to reach them, we're going to choose the platforms, and I'll take the 2 top ones, and we will set out designing material for that platform. That will then be next week's session. We're having 2 sessions this month as a quick start, and then we will have 1 session per month after that regularly. But I really felt that as we are starting out, it's important that we quickly get a PR plan in and start designing our first posters. And then after that, we can work on the detail of how we manage this. Right. So with that being said, I have some next actions. So the next actions are as follows. One, please finish your PR plan. I will send you a template of this PR plan and put it on the drive. If you can complete it, you don't have to submit it to me, but I'd like you to have it so that when we have the conversation, you're working on your plan. Once we've done that, please diarize next week's session. It will be at the same time on the same day where we will start designing the material for this PR plan. Right? And I'd like you to start, please, capturing photography for your clubs so we can start the brand contest going. I will be sending more information about the brand contest in the email of mine, as well as the WhatsApp group that we had. This then officially ends my presentation. And I'd like to tell you that you have in your power as the Vice President Public Relations, the ability to bring in as many people as you want to your club. If you apply your PR plan well, there's no reason why you cannot have a minimum of 20 people at every meeting, whether it's internal or external people. Together, we will work to make sure you have a minimum of 20. The maximum is up to you to decide. Thank you very much for your time. I then open for 1 minute for last minute comments, and then we will close this topic, and I'll see you next week. Any closing comments? Andrew, can you do the honors, please?
Yes, Tando, the people are just saying this has been very helpful. Thank you very much. And awesome. Thank you very much. Great meeting. Please send the WhatsApp link to the District 74 group. I will do that and would like links posted to the group. I think all is positive feedback. Thank you very much, Tando, for facilitating this session and kickstarting off, especially on the branding side and important aspects of it. And I hope to see more brand right posters and flyers going out there, especially as we head to our annual Toastmasters Day next week, Wednesday, and our open house events to see 250 people more. So if you have just 100 people, please invite me to your meeting. I'm sure I would love to be a part of that awesome meeting. Thanks, Tando.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for your time. I shall speak to you next week on this platform. Expect links for the information we've shared. Until then, brand right. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Tando.